Hello, everyone. I hope you're all doing well. Today, we're going to talk about a very recent and extremely high-profile American case, the disappearance of Gabby Petito. You've probably already heard about it, since her story captivated the entire world and raised many questions about the relationship between the media and the justice system. In this video, we're going to try to understand how this femicide became such a massive story and why this case affected so many people. Just before we begin, don't forget to subscribe. But without further ado, let's get into today's topic. Get comfortable, turn off the lights, and whenever you're ready, let's begin. We are on July 2nd, 2021, in Long Island, New York. From her family home, 22-year-old Gabby Petito is about to begin her van life adventure. For months and months, Gabby and her fiancé Brian Laundrie have been preparing for this trip, and they can't wait to finally hit the road. This isn't their first trip like this. They had already traveled across the country by car before, but they quickly realized they were spending way too much money on hotels and food. That's why they decided to buy a van. And honestly, the timing was perfect for this kind of lifestyle. The world was still in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and the van life movement had never been more popular. On social media, countless van lifers shared their adventures with followers looking for freedom and excitement, and some of these videos racked up millions of views. That morning, Gabby hugs her mother goodbye. Her mom struggles to let go. She knows Gabby isn't planning to return before October, and 3 months without seeing her daughter feels like forever. She's worried too. Gabby is young, and she fears something could happen to her on the road. Thankfully, Brian is with her, and she reassures herself by thinking he'll take care of her. Gabby walks around the white Ford Transit van they carefully converted together, checking that everything is ready. She looks inside at the tiny bed, the little kitchen area, the storage compartments. Everything feels cozy and perfectly optimized. This project had taken months of hard work. Gabby had done everything she could to turn this tiny space into a comfortable little home for herself and her fiancé, and she was genuinely proud of the result. Before leaving, the couple reviews their route one last time. Their goal is to visit some of the most beautiful national parks in the country: Yellowstone, Arches National Park, and several places across Utah and Wyoming. They didn't want their schedule to be too strict, though. They also wanted to leave room for spontaneity and unexpected discoveries. After all, that's part of the adventure too. Gabby sits in the passenger seat and waves goodbye to her family as she and Brian drive south. Then she takes out her phone and checks her Instagram page. Gabby had decided to document her adventures online for her small community of followers. At the time, she only had around 1,000 followers, but she hoped her audience would grow. Maybe one day she could even make a living from it. She dreamed of joining the exclusive world of travel influencers, people who had managed to turn their adventures into full-time careers by posting photos and videos online. During July 2021, Gabby and Brian traveled through several states until they reached Monument Rocks in Kansas, where they stayed for a few days. Gabby documented every step of the road trip and regularly posted photos on Instagram. In these pictures, they looked happy, in love, and carefree. To Gabby's loved ones, the trip seemed to be doing her good, and they felt reassured seeing her so fulfilled. By the end of July, Gabby and Brian arrived in Colorado, where Gabby continued documenting their hikes and adventures around Colorado Springs. She also stayed in regular contact with her parents and her best friend through calls and messages to reassure them and keep them updated. At the beginning of August, the couple finally reached Utah, the main destination of their trip. There, they visited several national parks, including Arches, Zion, and Canyonlands. The breathtaking landscapes and stunning rock formations she posted online began receiving more and more attention. On August 19, 2021, while the couple was now in Wyoming, Gabby uploaded the first video to her YouTube channel, Nomadic Static. In this vlog-style video titled Van Life: Beginning Our Van Life Journey, Gabby and Brian shared clips from their adventure together. Everything seemed fine between them. They were exploring beautiful places, enjoying activities together, and living the dream they had worked so hard for. At least, that's how it looked on the surface. On August 25th, Just a few days after posting the YouTube video, Gabby called her mother to say they were still in Wyoming and heading toward Grand Teton National Park. During the call, Gabby sounded completely normal. Her mother didn't notice anything unusual. She wouldn't hear from her again until August 27th, 2 days later. At first, she wasn't too worried. Gabby didn't talk to her every day, and she knew phone service could be unreliable. But the message she received felt strange. No service in Yosemite. First of all, the message was cold and unusually short. That didn't sound like Gabby at all. And why would she suddenly be in Yosemite, California, when she had just said they were going to Grand Teton? Yosemite was nearly 13 hours away. Maybe Gabby and Brian had changed plans at the last minute without mentioning it. Still, something felt off. Then a few hours later, Gabby's mother received another message. "Can you help Stan? I keep getting his voicemails and missed calls." Stan was Gabby's grandfather. But Gabby never called him Stan. She always called him Grandpa. At that moment, her mother became convinced something was wrong. She didn't believe Gabby had written those messages herself. On top of that, Gabby had completely stopped posting on social media. She hadn't even sent a message for her best friend's birthday. Her loved ones were now deeply worried and feared something terrible had happened. Gabby was extremely close to her family. Disappearing without warning simply wasn't like her. And she had been so committed to growing her social media pages that posting regularly mattered a lot to her. Something was definitely wrong. But what? Had she gotten into an accident? Gotten lost? Her loved ones kept trying to contact both Gabby and Brian, but neither of them answered. After those strange messages, there was complete silence. Then, on September 1st, 2021, 4 days later, the situation took a shocking turn. Brian Laundrie returned to Florida driving the van alone. He went back to his parents' house in Northport and told no one he had returned. In fact, only Brian's parents knew he was back. Gabby's family only found out days later, most likely because someone spotted the van parked outside the Laundrie family home and informed them. So Brian was back in Florida, and not only did he fail to report Gabby missing, but he completely refused to speak to her family, who at that point still had no idea where she was. Brian and his family went completely silent. They ignored calls and messages from Gabby's loved ones entirely. To everyone watching, this behavior seemed bizarre. Why wouldn't he speak to them? Had he and Gabby argued? Was that why he returned without her? At this point, Gabby's family was obviously terrified, but they still couldn't imagine Brian had anything to do with her disappearance. Brian and Gabby had known each other since high school. They were engaged. The family knew him well. His silence was suspicious, yes, but imagining he might have harmed Gabby still felt impossible. As the days passed and Brian continued refusing to explain anything, Gabby's mother, Nicole Schmidt, contacted the police. But unsurprisingly, nobody initially took her seriously. Gabby was an adult. Adults had the right to disappear if they wanted to. The usual responses, but Nicole refused to back down. She explained the entire situation to officers and insisted this behavior was completely unlike her daughter. Eventually, after going to the police station herself, authorities officially accepted the missing person report. By September 11, 2021, Gabby Petito was officially reported missing. Before continuing, it's important to briefly introduce Gabby and Brian more personally. Gabrielle Venora Petito was born on March 19, 1999, in Long Island, New York. Her parents divorced when she was young, but remained on good terms. Gabby grew up in a happy blended family and had 6 half-siblings. In 2017, she graduated high school and moved to Carolina Beach, North Carolina, where she worked as a restaurant hostess until 2019. In March of that same year, she officially began dating Brian Laundrie and moved to Northport, Florida, to live with him and his parents. Gabby quickly found work as a pharmacy technician at Publix while also pursuing nutrition-related work. Gabby was described as cheerful, creative, adventurous, and passionate about travel. She dreamed of exploring the United States and becoming a content creator online. Brian Christopher Laundrie was born on November 18, 1997, also in Long Island, New York. His parents ran a small family business, and he had one sister, Cassie. Brian and Gabby met in high school and stayed close over the years. even after Brian's family relocated to Florida. Unlike Gabby, Brian was introverted, but they shared interests in art, hiking, camping, and travel. After high school, they both worked at the same grocery store before quitting shortly before the COVID pandemic to travel together across the country. In 2020, they got engaged and began preparing for their dream van trip. Gabby bought the Ford Transit van and worked exhausting 50-hour weeks at Taco Bell to help finance the journey. Brian found work at a juice bar. For months, they worked relentlessly toward this shared dream. Now back to the investigation. On September 12, 2021, just one day after Gabby was officially reported missing, Brian Laundrie was identified as the primary person of interest in the case. Around the same time, authorities released body cam footage recorded by police officers in Moab, Utah. This footage would become one of the most discussed and disturbing aspects of the entire case. To understand why, we need to go back in time. On August 12, 2021, a witness called 911 to report an altercation involving a man allegedly slapping a woman. Police quickly located the van and noticed erratic driving behavior. Officers initially suspected the driver might be under the influence. When they approached the vehicle, Gabby was visibly distressed and crying uncontrollably. Brian, meanwhile, appeared relatively calm. The officers separated them to hear both versions of events individually. This footage later sparked enormous public debate regarding the dynamics of their relationship and possible signs of abuse. The next day, after the footage became public, Brian abruptly left his parents' home, claiming he was going hiking in the Carlton Reserve, a massive swampy nature reserve in Florida. Many people wondered how police could allow him to leave while he was the main suspect in a missing person investigation. The answer was simple. Authorities still lacked evidence. Gabby was missing, yes, and Brian refused to cooperate, but investigators had no body, no physical evidence, and no confession. Despite their suspicions, they couldn't legally arrest him yet. Then, on September 17th, another shocking development occurred. Brian's family reported him missing too. Suddenly, investigators were dealing with two disappearances at once. Meanwhile, Gabby's family continued speaking publicly, desperately hoping someone would come forward with information. At the same time, forensic investigators searched the couple's van for evidence. Although the detailed forensic report was never released publicly, a key breakthrough came from another source entirely. After seeing the body cam footage and news coverage, another van life couple contacted the FBI. They explained they had encountered Gabby and Brian near Spread Creek Campground in Wyoming and had even unknowingly captured the couple's van on dash cam footage. Until then, the search area had been enormous. This tip finally gave investigators a precise location to focus on. After days of searching, on September 19, 2021, authorities discovered a body matching Gabby's description near Grand Teton National Park. 2 days later, officials confirmed the body was indeed Gabby Petito. The preliminary autopsy concluded what everyone feared. Gabby's death was a homicide. The final report later revealed she died by manual strangulation and had likely been dead for 3 to 4 weeks before being found. On September 23rd, federal authorities issued an arrest warrant for Brian Laundrie. Surprisingly, the warrant wasn't for murder, but for unauthorized use of Gabby's debit card after her death. This strategy was designed to arrest him as quickly as possible while investigators continued building the homicide case. But Brian was still missing. The entire country became obsessed with the manhunt. Hundreds of thousands of people followed the case online, and even celebrity bounty hunter Dog the Bounty Hunter joined the search. His involvement didn't help solve the case, but it demonstrated just how massive the media circus surrounding the investigation had become. Then, over a month later, another major twist occurred. On October 20th, 2021, authorities discovered human remains and personal belongings belonging to Brian Laundrie in the Carlton Reserve. The following day, officials confirmed the remains were his. The autopsy concluded Brian had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. After Brian's death, Gabby's family publicly expressed their devastation. They believed they might never truly know what happened during Gabby's final days. Investigators later recovered a notebook near Brian's body containing what appeared to be a confession. In the note, Brian claimed Gabby had suffered an accident near a river and that he had ended her life to stop her suffering. However, investigators found absolutely no evidence supporting this version of events. Many experts believe the letter was an attempt to rationalize his actions and portray himself as tragic or misunderstood. Some psychologists who analyzed the letter noted signs of narcissism, emotional manipulation, and attempts to center his own suffering rather than Gabby's. Experts also highlighted how Brian appeared focused on controlling the narrative, even in death. As more information emerged, it became increasingly clear that Gabby and Brian's relationship had been deeply unhealthy. Gabby's best friend, Rose Davis, later revealed that Brian had been jealous, controlling, and isolating. According to Rose, Brian disliked Gabby spending time with friends and often tried to control aspects of her life. This pattern is extremely common in abusive relationships: isolation, emotional control, manipulation, and blame shifting. Many psychologists analyzing the body cam footage later concluded that Gabby showed multiple signs of emotional abuse. Throughout the footage, Gabby blamed herself repeatedly, minimized Brian's behavior, and appeared desperate to keep the peace. Meanwhile, Brian remained calm, charming, and detached while joking with officers. Several experts described this as consistent with manipulative or narcissistic behavior. Gabby also admitted during the stop that Brian didn't support her blogging ambitions and often made her feel incapable of succeeding. She explained that he had locked her out of the van during their argument, something experts identified as another form of emotional control. In June 2024, the FBI released another heartbreaking piece of evidence, a letter written by Gabby shortly before her death. In it, she wrote, "Brian, you know how much I love you, but please stop crying and insulting me." Again, this suggested the relationship had become emotionally volatile and verbally abusive long before Gabby's death. It's impossible to know exactly what happened during Gabby's final moments because Brian took those answers with him when he died. Before ending this video, I want to discuss the massive media attention this case received. Gabby Petito's disappearance became a global story, followed by millions in real time. Several factors contributed to this enormous coverage. First, Gabby's strong social media presence made people feel personally connected to her through parasocial relationships. Second, online communities became heavily involved. Thousands of internet sleuths analyzed videos, photos, and timelines searching for clues. Some even traveled directly to search areas themselves. While public involvement helped spread awareness and ultimately generated important tips, it also raised concerns about people interfering with active investigations or potentially destroying evidence. The case also reignited discussions about the missing white woman syndrome, the tendency for disappearances involving young white women to receive disproportionately high media coverage compared to missing people of color or those from disadvantaged backgrounds. Statistics suggest white women represent only around 30% of missing persons cases in the United States, yet receive over half of all related media coverage. This doesn't mean cases like Gabby's deserve less attention. It means all missing persons cases deserve equal visibility and public concern. Another important issue involved the Utah police officers shown in the body cam footage. Many people later criticized the officers for failing to identify Gabby as the likely long-term victim in the relationship. Despite the 911 caller reporting that a man had hit a woman, officers focused heavily on Gabby's emotional state and largely accepted Brian's version of events. An independent report later concluded the officers showed confirmation bias and lacked adequate training regarding domestic violence dynamics. The report specifically noted they failed to recognize signs that Gabby may have been the primary victim. Finally, many questions remain surrounding Brian's family. Their silence throughout the investigation generated intense suspicion. Some theorized they may have known what Brian had done from the very beginning. Although nothing was ever officially proven, investigators discovered a strange letter written by Brian's mother addressed to him. The letter included phrases such as, "If you need to dispose of a body, I'll bring a shovel and garbage bags." Many people found the message deeply disturbing and interpreted it as evidence that Brian's family knew more than they admitted. Gabby's family later filed lawsuits against the Laundrie family, and legal proceedings surrounding the case continued for years. To end on a more positive note, Gabby's loved ones created the Gabby Petito Foundation, an organization dedicated to helping families of missing persons and supporting victims of domestic violence. Since its creation, Gabby's mother has said many survivors reached out to say Gabby's story gave them the courage to leave abusive relationships. As she explained, Gabby will never come back, but we will make sure her story helps save other lives. That's the end of today's video. I hope you found it interesting and informative. Let me know what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe if you haven't already. I had wanted to talk about this case for a long time because, like many people, I followed it closely in real time. It's frustrating that the case never truly received a complete ending because the investigation effectively stopped after Brian's death. I still say suspect, but realistically, there is no doubt Brian Laundrie was responsible for Gabby Petito's murder. At the same time, I think this case also showed the positive side of media attention and online communities when families genuinely want public involvement. Ultimately, that's the key, respecting what the victims' families actually want and need above all else.